Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. Happy to have you here for our meeting today on March 7th, 2023. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Before we begin our meeting today, I'd like to ask the fiscal court to accept Tara Long as our new fiscal court clerk. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Tara. Welcome to fiscal court. Your first duty will be to call the roll.
Brent Likens,
Here.
Wayne Tice, Kevin Woosley,
Here.
Jeffries,
Here.
Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, here, Bob Dye, Michael Logston, and David Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Are there any?
Can you ask them to state their names?
All right. I'm going to ask you, since Tara is new today, to I'll just say it clearly so I can let her know who made the motion and the second. All right. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Magistrate Dye first.
Dye, who was our second?
I was the second.
All right, Magistrate Hounds. All right. She'll catch on here after a while, but you're not familiar with everybody's voice at this point. So, and are there any corrections or, let's say, additions to the agenda? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, motion adopted. Now we'll read the minutes, Sarah will, from our last meeting, which was on the 21st of February.
The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting of 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney Barry Baxter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Kevin Woosley, Kevin Jeffries, Chris Hounds, Stephanie Hawkins, Bob Dye, and Michael Logston. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the agenda as submitted, adding closed session pursuant KRS 61.810C, discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Tice to approve the minutes of the February 7th, 2023 meeting as submitted. Motion carried 7-0-2. Judge Vogel and Magistrate Woosley abstained. Public comment. County Clerk Amy Alvey shared information on the upcoming elections and announced poll workers are needed. Larry Kaiser requested fiscal court meet in the evenings so that the public can attend and had questions on the county-wide broadband contract with AT&T. Judge Vogel responded to Mr. Kaiser's concerns and questions. Lisa Parrish spoke about police pay and requested assistance for the constables. Joe Dennis encouraged the court to stay competitive with police pay. John Dethridge gave a monthly constable report and requested an increase in pay for police. Laura O'Brien spoke in support of law enforcement agencies in the county and requested later meeting times for fiscal court. Rhonda Rikens stated her concerns about the shortage of police staff in the county. Albert Harrison presented a quote from the Oldham County Guide 2023 regarding public safety being the county's #1 responsibility. Goshen Library Construction Project. Library Director Julie Wilson presented information on the Goshen Library Construction Project. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and second by Magistrate Woosley to approve the library construction project expenditure as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. The following bid for the SUV for Oldham County Police was opened and read. Champion Chevrolet, $31,935. The bid was given to Deputy Judge Kevin Nuss for review and later recommendation. Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, LEP Body Armor for Oldham County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Mike Meese presented information regarding the Law Enforcement Protection Program grant information for rifle-resistant body armor. Motion made by Magistrate Helms and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the LEP grant application for rifle-resistant body armor as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Revised Police Salary Schedule. Judge Vogel presented information to the court regarding an increase in pay for Oldham County Police and the intent to add a no-cost, family-dependent health insurance plan for all employees. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Helms to approve revising the police salary schedule for police officers and sergeants to match the schedule used currently by Louisville Metro Police. Discussion followed. Magistrate Logston called for the question and then removed his call for the question. Judge Vogel and Magistrate Helms agreed to amend the motion to include stating the salary would model Louisville Metro scale dated July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Motion to amend passed unanimously. Original motion passed on roll call votes 8-1. Magistrate Tice voted no. Motion made and seconded for a brief recess. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Helms to return to open session. Motion carried unanimously. Payables. Motion made by Magistrate Helms and seconded by Magistrate Logston to approve the payment of the payables as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the budget transfers as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Judge Vogel announced items C and D, the first reading of the OCEA dissolution ordinance and OCEA assignment and assumption agreement and special warranty deed are not ready to be considered at this time. First reading of the construction site runoff ordinance. County Engineer Jim Silliman presented the first reading ordinance for KOC 23-830-325, repealing and replacing and establishing regulations for the control of the construction site runoff of pollutants and sediment to the streams and waterways of Oldham County. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled for March 7, 2023. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Tice to take from the table consideration of the Oldham County Relief Fund grant awards. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to approve the award of county relief fund grants in the amount of $133,129.50, which is half of the amount presented. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Woosley voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Dice to award Flynn Brothers the bid for Spring Hill Trace Sidewalk Project in the amount of $359,345.76. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Helms and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the agreement with ACOM for construction inspection services as required for the Spring Hill Trace Sidewalk Project. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to adopt Resolution 01-02-21-23, authorizing the filing of an application with the State of Kentucky Division of Waste Management for a grant to provide recycling education to the public and equipment for the Oldham County Recycling Center, and authorizing the signing of the grant agreement if awarded. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Dice to adopt Resolution 02-21-23, authorizing the filing of the application with the State of Kentucky Division of Waste Management for a grant to hold household hazardous waste collection in Oldham County, and authorizing the signing of the grant agreement if awarded. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve the plat consolidation for Schambach Park as submitted. Professional retired surveyor Albert Harrison and planning director Jim Urban provided an explanation for the reason to consolidate the plats. Magistrate Tice called for the question. The motion to stop debate passed unanimously. Original motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Hawkins voted no. Bid award police SUV. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to award the police SUV bid to Champion Chevrolet for $31,935. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Dye to approve the 6.5 CPI increase for magistrates and coroner as submitted. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Tice to amend the motion to include an effective date of January 1st, 2023. Motion failed on a roll call vote of 4-4-1. Magistrates Woosley, Jeffries, Hounds, and Hawkins voted no, and Judge Vogel abstained. Magistrate Hounds and Magistrate Dye amended the motion to include an effective date of February 26, 2023. Motion on the amended motion carried on roll call vote of 7-1-1. Magistrate Woosley voted no, and Judge Vogel abstained. Motion made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to hire Elizabeth Snyder as part-time community assistant at $15 an hour, effective February 22nd, 2023. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to hire Tara Long as executive administrative assistant at $26.15 an hour, effective February 23rd, 2023. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to reappoint Barry Laws to the Tourism Board with a term to expire January 10th, 2025. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Hounds clarified the effective date for the police salary increase will be March 26, 2023. Public comment. And closed session. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810 F and C for discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency and discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee, member, or student with or without restricting that employee's, members, or student's right to a public hearing if requested. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Tice to come out of closed session. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to authorize the county attorney to pursue collections in the amount of $28,842.32 erroneously paid to James and Stacy Crone for a FEMA grant. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Hawkins voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to authorize the county attorney to pursue collections in the amount of $23,050 paid to Jim and Lisa Borgman in Prospect for the elevation of the property, which was subsequently demolished rather than elevated. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting adjourned at 6:05 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from the February 21st meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Are there any corrections? I'm going to
Second.
sound, sorry. Not getting that myself here. I do want to just clarify one thing on the police salary schedule. We said we had an intent to pursue a no-cost option with our health carriers for our employees, and discussing that with our current carrier, Humana. So that I want to make that clear. That was our intent to pursue that. It's not a guarantee we'll get it. It has to do with working with Humana, and even since we have done this, Humana has announced, our carrier, that it's going out of the health insurance business sometime in the next 24 months. So that's creating a question for us on how to move forward, because we have to find a new carrier. But we will do that as time goes forward here. So I think is there anyone else? Had a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Time now for public comment. Good job, Tara. First time through, and you got through it. It's not easy sitting up here reading papers in front of people. You get used to it with time, but your first time out, it's like first time on a stage. You're glad you can remember your lines, right? Okay. Time now for public comment, and anybody who'd like to speak to fiscal court is eligible to come forward. And Larry, I guess you're going to be next here. So I know you've stated your name and address before, but you ask you to do it again, please.
Yeah, Larry Kaiser, 3000 Maple Leaf Drive, LaGrange, Kentucky. Took a vacation time to be here, but I appreciate that you guys have Wi-Fi so I can work while I'm waiting. I could certainly benefit from evening meetings, as I talked about last week. I know you said this time's not for dialogue, and I tried emailing you shortly after. I didn't get a response, so I'll just kind of continue my thoughts from here. Last week you said you had tried evening meetings, but you also stated that you couldn't remember a time that you had evening meetings. They had always been during the day. So I'd like to understand, when were meetings last held and scheduled at night for the fiscal court? How long ago that might have been? You mentioned the Kentucky legislature and other fiscal courts meet during the day. I won't dispute the legislature. That's during the day, but I'll also say that doesn't encourage public participation. That's a little bigger and broader than city and local matters. I will submit to you that all SBDMs, the school board meets at 4 later in the evening. LaGrange Town Hall, or LaGrange City Council, Louisville Metro, all of those meet in the evening. Your Oldham County Republican GOP party meetings are in the evening. The Oldham County Democrat meetings are in the evening. They're virtually all in the evening, so people can participate. Now, if you want to argue that virtually no one shows up, is this what you mean when we have during the day? There's maybe 4 people that I count that don't, that may be here for to talk or participate. 11 total, if you want to count fiscal court employees. I think a representative from the Oldham area and some sheriffs. Is that what you meant when virtually no one shows up? I can't tell you what it is this week because I think Jay might be having some issues with the live. YouTube Live wasn't. But when I got home, there were 40 people watching. That were 40 people that wanted to participate in government. And maybe they could have benefited from an interactive meeting. You guys had Zoom last year. Even if you want to be bullish about evening meetings or not seek data to support your claims, that's fine. We had Zoom infrastructure that we could have continued that, but you're also dismissive of that. I think fundamentally you're intellectually dishonest about the reasons why. You've previously told me virtually no one attends. You've previously stated that you're open if others are, but I didn't ever hear that come before the fiscal court to get anyone's opinions or thoughts on it. You have also stated... okay. And then, so if you want to find out whether people will come or not, what ways have you sought that information? I've not seen a survey. I watch the meetings online. I never see you ask anyone for public comment or that comes up to speak. Ask them if they could benefit from a public meeting or a remote meeting where they're allowed to participate in public comment without having to come here. If you're interested in finding that out, you could, but I don't think you want to. So it's my hope that going forward, you could start asking people. You could send out a community survey. You could do any number of things to allow more people to participate and encourage more people to participate. Going back the last three meetings, on 221, YouTube had 260 views, 27 had 140 views, and on 117 there were 160 views. I also previously asked if you keep attendance records of how many people come. Can you speak to that and compare how many people come versus, say, like views on YouTube? And how far back do those records go if you want to help defend your claim that virtually no one shows up? Because I submit that no one shows up anyway, because the system
I think
encourages people.
your 4 minutes is up, Larry. Okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you. This is a point you want to make. I believe you ran for office, got virtually no votes. So let's be honest about it here. Most of us have been sitting here 10 or 12 years. We have much more experience with this than you do. We don't get, you're virtually the only person in the community we hear about on this issue. If there was any strong indication that many people wanted to attend this and could not, all of these people sitting here would know it. Most of our issues are not issues that people, buying a car today. Let's see what's on here. Aquatic Senate contract. Come on now. I don't want to argue with you. I understand your point, and I've said if we have anything that's controversial or we think there will generate a large audience, we'd be happy to do so. I've also explained to you that we were elected to hold over staff, pay overtime, and compensatory time to staff members, which we would be required to do by generating evening meetings. That you say there's nobody here. We've had the evening meetings. There's no one comes to evening meetings except maybe somebody who has nothing to do that evening and is looking to, be entertained for a few minutes. We're not trying to. You say people watch on the internet. Okay, well, we're glad. That's what we've got it out there for. If there's interest, we hope people are watching. If those people wanted to attend the meeting and couldn't because they had watched YouTube later or something like that, let us know. I mean, we're not hard to find or hard to get a hold of, and I know this is something that is important to you, and I'm not trying to discount that because everything's important to all of us that's important to the people in our community. But it just isn't the demand for it that you think there is. And I know it's inconvenient for you to attend a day meeting, and but it's just we just don't get the feedback that reaches the point where you think it should. Okay, well, come back up. Come on back up. I'm not going to cut you off on the microphone. It's just that open comment is not meant to be a debate session.
Shout at me with votes, but that's okay.
In other words, I think that was, I didn't mean to, but maybe it was unfair of me, but I think that's one of the issues that you ran on, is having evening.
So I got a lot of feedback from people about the meetings, and that's a thing. And if you want to say that you have the data to defend that no one wants to participate, I'm asking you, encouraging you to ask people. Anyone that comes up here for this meeting and future meetings, just ask them, plain and simple, could you benefit from an evening meeting? Would you come to an evening meeting? Are you more likely to go to those? Does this bother you? You can find that out. You're making claims that I don't think you have the data to defend. You're saying that you've always done it this way as a point to say that we will always do it this way. By and large, people cannot participate without making changes to their schedule. Kids on bus, work schedule, to come during the day.
Fiscal courts across the state have evening meetings.
I don't have that information in front of me, but I know that some meet.
I will agree that there are some, but there are some that meet at 9 in the morning. Some they meet all.
So even meet on
hours.
Saturdays.
Okay, so.
But to that point, you also don't let people participate online. You have the infrastructure. We had it. You took it away. So if you want to argue about time and overtime, let people participate. like a Zoom. You turn comments off on the YouTube channel.
Evans.
Someone does. There's no YouTube comments available. Facebook allows the comments, but you don't allow for participation. For right now, like if someone were to disagree with me and say, get this dumb guy off here, they could come up and participate on Zoom and say, hey, I'd like my 4 minutes of public comment.
Yeah.
We can do that. You've previously said there were microphone challenges or issues that I think prevent that. And that's easily addressed with people learning to use a microphone button on or off.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I understand. All right. Thank you, Larry. Anyone else here who would like to address the fiscal court? Okay, I'll close public comment and we'll go on to the next item on our agenda here today, and that has to do with the the bid opening for household waste collection contract. Melissa? Okay, here, let's see. This is for our annual event that I believe we have in October, isn't it? Okay. Clean Harbors Environmental Services, $39,665 for a 350 car event, $91 for each car over 350. The let's see what here. This second bid is from Environmental Enterprises, $34,000 even. The others, that was one more. And this bid is from MXI Environmental Services. And wait. There's actually a required bid document, page 3. You want to look at this, these?
Fill out our bid document. They don't get to.
I know it's. I don't think I missed it there, but I might have because
Judge, while we're waiting, are you able to give the city and state that Environmental Enterprises is out of?
Could you? That was Melissa. Can you? Stephanie. Can you repeat that, please?
I'm sorry. Cincinnati, Ohio is where Environmental Enterprises is
Right.
out of. That's what I was just asking, where they're from.
The first bidder is from Norwell, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. And this last one looks like Virginia.
Okay. Deep in the contract there. Okay. Too many tabs here. All right. MXI Environmental of Abington, Virginia, $29,750. Okay. There you go. We thank our bidders. Now, when we get this put back together, we'll go on to a bid opening for storm system improvement on Perrin Drive. bidders do we have on this? Three? Three bidders on this one. This is alternative paving construction of New Albany, $105,636.16.
One more time, I'm sorry.
Alternative, all-terrain paving, New Albany, $105,636.16. The next one is Libs paving, 85,000 even.
Give the name again on that one.
Libs, L-I-B-S paving. Third bid is from Louisville Paving, $108,000 even. We thank our bidders. 108,000 even, all right. We're at county administration now. As their motion, we pay the bills.
So moved.
Kevin Jeffries.
Magistrate Hounds, Magistrate Jeffries. Are there any questions on the bills? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is community business, and that is going to be the second reading of the construction site runoff ordinance. Jim Sullivan will review that with the court, and then after Jim is finished, and we'll have an opportunity for anyone who would like to comment on that who was here today to do so. Jim, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Jim Silliman, Oldham County Engineer, 100 West Jefferson Street, LaGrange, Kentucky. The reason I'm here is to present for you for your hearing the proposed construction site runoff ordinance to repeal and replace the existing construction site runoff. The existing is ordinance 05-830-204. The new ordinance would be 23-830-325. The updates that I'm proposing are required for Oldham County to remain in compliance with our current KYG 20 permit. That's our MS4 permit with the Kentucky Division of Water. The process that we've gone through in making these revisions, we've involved the development community, including regular meetings and presentations at the Builders Industry Association at their monthly Land Development Council meetings. Some important dates. At February 7th, 2023, fiscal court meeting, the Environment, Recycling, and Information Technology meeting, the ordinance was approved to come to the fiscal court for the first reading. That first reading was held at your February 21st fiscal court meeting, and the notice for this second reading and public hearing was published in the Oldham Era on the 23rd. What you see on your screen now are basically the three sections from our 2021 Oldham County audit with the Division of Water that require me to make these revisions, where it's asking, does the municipal separate storm sewer system permittees ordinance contain requirements for construction site operators to implement appropriate erosion control sediment best management practices that at a minimum shall be protective as Kentucky General Permit for stormwater construction sites, KYR10. KYR10 is the permit that developers get with the Division of Water for their land disturbance areas over an acre. The other two items here, one regarding to specific materials that should be addressed in the ordinance, and the other stating that specifically in our ordinance that the developer get this KYR10 permit. So our current ordinance doesn't have that specific language, and as such, you can see the compliance status was noted as out of compliance for one, no violations, but trending towards those. So we just need to remedy that before this permit renews, which is April 2023, so in the next month or so. That's the purpose for making these revisions at this time, so we remain in compliance. I'll scroll through real quickly. I provided to you both a clean copy of the ordinance and I believe also a redlined ordinance so you could see the revisions. As you can see on the first page, it's just the change of the ordinance number. We move on to page 9. This is some of that language that specifically states that the contractor has to get their KYR 10 permit and that our permit is as protective as that KYR 10 or our ordinance. Similar language in 12, on page 12, where we're specifying some of those materials that I mentioned earlier. There's also just a text edit for a bullet item that needed to be moved down. There were some additions in this process we felt we wanted to address within the ordinance while we had the opportunity to make these changes. One is in the blue text here on 14, and that was simply to make the self-inspection schedule align with what's currently in the KYR 10 and in the Kentucky BMP's manual. So contractors aren't looking at two different schedules, they just go to one. Let's see, if we scroll to page 18, that change was to eliminate what we currently have as in a list of enforcement actions. There was a notice of deficiency as well as notice of violations. In order to reserve the notice of violation for enforcement when we need to issue a citation, and then change the notice of deficiency to a field correction notice, which could be a notice that's given the contractor when there's no citation required. Second page, you can see where just to keep up with time, we wanted to make sure that we noted that email was an appropriate form of communication as opposed to just facsimile and certified mail, which honestly takes too long. The last item is on page 23, and that was to add that for the surety release inspections, I come to fiscal court often with surety release recommendations when subdivisions have been completed. If that takes over 2 inspections from our office, we're recommending that there be a charge of $200 per inspection. So we would offer the first 2 inspections this is the erosion control surety at no cost, and then anything beyond that would be additional, with the understanding or the thought that we're coming out there more than we should have to. And those are the proposed changes. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
All right.
I was asked by you want me to do the motion first and then discussion? Okay.
Pardon? All right, well, we're going to have a public hearing here, but let's, for the sake of discussion, let the magistrates ask their questions, and we'll have anybody here who would like to provide further feedback do so. Okay? So, want to make a motion here?
To the public to hearing first before the motion.
She wants to ask a question. I thought maybe the public could benefit from the questions that are asked before comments are made, but it can go either way. Do you want to ask your question and before we have a motion? Okay, go ahead.
I was asked if we also had a red line presentation today as well.
That's what I was just reviewing. Right.
Well, we just saw blue, so is there anything where you scratched out? I know it was just different words, but...
And I call it red line because they're the revisions. I tried to differentiate the items that were shown in red are the specific items that were required to remain in compliance with our KYG 20 permit, and the items in blue were additional items like the inspection fee and the self-inspection schedule that were added that don't necessarily have to be added to remain in compliance with our KYG 20. So that was the reason for the different colors, was to separate those two.
All right. All right, question.
Tim, back when we had looked at this committee, I just want to get this straight. It seemed like we did have the red line copy, and you had the red and the blue. So are you saying that the red was the changes, and blue was additions, but you weren't changing something. It was an addition to what you had.
They're all changes. It was just to differentiate, again, what was required. The ones in red, we have to do to stay within compliance of our KYG 20 permit. If we don't do those, then we're out of compliance. The blue ones were, I'll say, supplemental changes that I felt necessary they were reasonable, and while we're going forward with this process now, let's get them changed.
So maybe it's me that was showing up there, the red.
Like this item, the inspection fees are in blue. I scroll forward, these items in red those are the ones that are required to remain in compliance with our MS4 permit.
What I'm saying here
I
is,
think there's been some technical difficulties with how you're able to view the PDFs that are being generated. Because I know I've had to send them in a couple different versions. So, unfortunately, what I produce has got the red and blue, and I hope that you get the same thing.
show up on my iPad. It didn't show up, but
That's a Microsoft to Apple issue.
I've already seen it in committee, so I'm just curious.
I'm seeing page 12 here with the red. Are there any other pages for any other consideration that are in red?
So pages 10 and 11, let's see, or 10 and 12 specifically are in red for the KYG 20 permit.
To make sure all the magistrates had the opportunity to see the red in addition to seeing the blue, because you're right, some of it got lost in translation. Thank you.
I mentioned earlier that this is the second reading of this ordinance change, and as such is a public hearing. And is there Jim, have a seat for just a second there. Is there anybody here who would like to address any changes or make any statements, plus or minus? We'll take, I guess, first of all, are you here to speak in favor or in opposition? All right, so we'll take all the people who'd like to speak in favor first. We'll take all those who like to speak in opposition second. You're going to raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the entire truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
Please state your name and address.
First name William, last name Douglas, chairman of the Oldham County Stormwater Board Management District. And 100 West Jefferson Street is what I'm going to use because here as the chairman of the board. Mr. Solomon has, like he said, had to make these changes due to the non-compliance with our Kentucky Divisional Water permit. And he has been working with the board and presenting this to us several times. And I'm here to speak on behalf of him and state my support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else today who would like to speak in favor of the changes to this ordinance? Or anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the changes to the ordinance? Seeing no one, we'll close the public comment and go forward with a motion. Is there a motion on the court that we adopt the changes?
I'd like to make a motion that we repeal and replace ordinance 5-830-326 and establishing regulation for the control of construction site runoff of pollutants and sediment to the streams and waterways of Oldham County.
All right, and replace it with ordinance number 32-830-325.
Me to mention the one that we are replacing
Well,
with, and then do you want me to mention the one that we're replacing it with?
did.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I think that's what you meant, but you didn't quite say it all. Okay.
You're right. Thank
Right.
you.
Quick question.
Okay, Magistrate Jeffries.
The effective date of this, would that be today?
What date is it effective? Some
Days after
3 days after we.
after it's published. So it's
Thank you.
Measure Tice.
I'm totally in favor of this, but there's something I think needs to be said. We have some engineering and construction companies in our county that it appears that rather than do their final inspection for our people to come look at it, they use that as a punch list. They don't even go out because some of the things I've seen have been so negligent that I think what they do is let our people go out for no charge and make their punch list for themselves. I hope that we can clear this up. I think we need a justified financial penalty for violation, not enough putting out of business, but for everybody to get their attention. And I hope that by making this station that at least somebody will hear it, and it may be more prevalent to their mind that they need to do their job and not us expect to do their job for them. So, thank you.
I agree with you. The court does not need to provide more than one final inspection. We come out for a final inspection. You do not have everything lined up perfectly. We come out again, and there are still errors. At that point, we do need to apply a penalty because we're wasting our time. The point is well made.
Judge, Mr. Silliman goes to these, I don't know the correct name, the Buildings and Trades or the Construction Trades Council or something of that nature. And maybe he needs to explain to them that this continues on, that we're going to have to find another way to coax them into doing the right thing. So we'll leave Mr. Silliman up with that. I'd like to task him with that if that's okay with you. Would be in the punch list person.
Right. We don't want to paint with a broad brush here and apply this thought to all of the people working in the county. Most are very compliant and attempt to do the best as soon as possible. A few people are, let's say, not living up to what we expect in that regard.
That's the intent for having the fee for inspections over 2.
Right. That's right. That's what we have. Any further comments or questions on this? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now, under contracts and resolutions, the Law Enforcement Services pre-employment assessment. Colonel Smith, would you like to address that, please?
This is when we're in a hiring process, what is required for recruits and out-of-state laterals is a test to be given by this Law Enforcement Services, Inc. Right now, KLEC administers that test. What we're asking for is to have our own contract with LEC so we can administer that test ourselves. They only get the test Monday through Friday, business hours. We've had trouble in the past getting our applicants down there during those times. If we can do this ourselves, we can do it on weekends. And right now, it's about a 4 to 6 week delay before we can get someone tested. And what we're trying to do is expedite our hiring process. And we're going to be hiring probably several officers this year. Ordinarily, it is required for recruits and out-of-state laterals, but we also give this test to any lateral that will apply for us because there is some good information that we can glean out of this that will help us in our background investigation and our decision whether to hire that person or not. So what we're asking for is a contract with them. There is a fee. The startup cost is $250, $125 training for a person to administer the test. That's $375 up front. And then each test that we administer is $165. The way we do this, in our process, we do the initial test, POPS test, and we'll go through the interviews, background investigation. So as we limit the number of people that we're looking at, then we will send them to this test. So we won't send everybody that applies for us will not take this test. Only the ones that we classify that are like in a tier 1 position, those are the ones that we would send for the test. But the benefit to us is we can give it on Sundays and expedite the process if we have to.
All right, is there a motion that we
Moved.
enter into a contract with this company for this testing?
I'll second.
Are there any questions? Magistrate Hawkins.
When you say we then administer the test, who then is responsible for proctoring this test?
Presently, we're probably going to have Sergeant Ellison take the initial training. He'll be the one. He's the one right now that oversees the physical fitness testing of the applicants when they come on board. So the way we got it set up now, we're now qualified to give the original. They call it a POPS test. We're now qualified. Excuse me. We're now qualified to give that test, so we don't have to wait on a date for the OCJT to give it. So we can expedite that. But Sergeant Ellison will give the test.
Come through public safety?
I don't think it did, but it's all right. Other questions? Magistrate Jeffries?
Yes, just one question, Chief. On the, I guess it was 5.1, it says during the initial term, client may pay the service fees listed in Exhibit C. After the initial term, Lisa may adjust all or any part of this pricing on Exhibit C upon 30 days prior notice to client. What is the initial term?
Do you mean the date for the initial term?
What's that period of time that $250 will be in effect? And then, the way I read it here, after 30 days after the initial term, then they could adjust their price.
Well, unfortunately, that's true. They can.
Okay. Well, do you know what the initial term is? How long that $250 fee will be good for?
Well, we were originally told this contract would be good for 1 year. That's what we're told.
Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Likens.
I answered my own question. Thank you.
Mistake on that?
2023. Terms and conditions.
Continue for initial period through June 30th, 2023.
1 year renewals. It says June 30th, 2023. So unfortunately, that might be the date where they change it.
Oh, it would just be good from June to June of 2023.
June 30th, 2023.
So they could adjust the price 30 days after that date.
Here's right.
Is that normal contract? I mean, it seems like a short period
It's
of time.
fiscal. They're just running into the fiscal year. Because we run on a fiscal year. I don't know if there's anything usual or unusual about it.
Not obligated to buy anything. We're just, you give us a price that doesn't work, we'll,
I support this, I think, but I just, wanted to make sure we understood, what the cost was going to be and what the term of that initial, line was.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir. Magistrate.
Is this the same? Can we use the same testing for dispatch in their process too? Or is this different?
How do you hear?
Same group for testing for dispatch?
It's organization specific. It's strictly for law enforcement.
I was trying to speed up two processes with one contract.
He asked that question because I thought it would be more of a selling factor if we could, but it's law enforcement specific.
Got him passed easy then.
All right, I think we've exhausted the questions. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item has to do with the Aquatic Center remodeling contract. Gary Parsons, please.
Judge, I'll present for Gary. This came through the Parks Committee. The Fiscal Court's already seen a version of this. We line itemed it in Parks Committee meeting last month, and then a special meeting after that. There's been a couple of changes. We changed the terms and then the completion dates. You'll see on there the completion dates. Substantial is March 1st, and the final is April 1st, and that was at our request. So this came through Parks Committee, and we're asking the Fiscal Court to approve it today to allow you to sign this contract with the remodeling company for the Aquatic Center.
Second that. Hawkins.
Motion made by Magistrate Woosley, seconded by Magistrate Hawkins. Are there questions on this remodeling contract? Magistrate Jeffries.
It looks like the way I read this, the original bid was $4,665,000, and this takes it to $4,520,000. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
That was the original quote that came out, was the 4520 with the 50,000 contingencies. And then we didn't accept that. That was open to court. And then we took it back to committee, and that's when we reworked it and did what's either value engineering, or actually we had things that we could live without to get the price back to where we thought we would be. At that point, that is the 3613,660 plus the 50,000 contingency. That's what the company agreed to, as well as worked between us with our architectural engineer. So, and with that, what Kevin said is we had to get it down to where we had their payment schedule with our court meeting, so it would be approved, as well as what was the other one we were talking about?
The completion dates.
Well, let's make it clear exactly what we're going to pay to have this pool remodeled.
$3,613,660 plus a $50,000 contingency plan.
$3 million.
$3,613,660, and then an additional $50,000 contingency fee is built in.
I don't see that anywhere in the paperwork I have here.
Page.
The first 14 pages are garbage. They really are. Here, Judge.
Not a 20 on your.
That's what you need to look at.
All right. Now, did the committee reduce any of the expected architectural features here to get down to this price?
Yes, we did.
What's gone?
You'll see some red line on there. A climbing wall was taken out, some piping and painting of the floor and liner.
The same stuff we talked about the last meeting. We haven't changed anything since we brought this up through court. Those are the changes that were made.
Memorialized it in the contract and got it approved through Mr. Baxter and then the company.
We did originally have, Judge, if I may speak, a whole new restroom remodel and a whole new snack stand remodel. We also had a sitting structure in the wading pool part where it's a beach entry. And we also expanded out to expand the deck and the fencing. We had a whole lot initially, but we didn't think the $4.65 million would pass through the court. So we've taken some of that out for now, and just kind of wanted to get it opened at a reasonable price.
Okay. Well, this was a committee decision. So,
as far as the terms were set up, the way the wording was set, the payment wouldn't necessarily hit the approval of fiscal court meetings. So we had that changed to where the payments would hit, so we could get it approved here and be paid on time.
Total amount is $3,666,660. That's what the court's approving today.
663,660. That's with the contingency built in.
That's a 361360 plus 50,000.
Measure die.
So this 3613,600, that is after your value engineered deducts, correct?
Yes, sir.
Before that, it was $4,520,000. That was just
Plus the contingent.
yeah. The contingency fund, but that did not include any other items, did it? Other than just the pool, was it the bathrooms in there and all that?
Was the bathroom?
It did include the bathrooms in there.
All that.
And when we went to the value engineering, the architect got with the pool people, and they said, what can we take out of there that will not affect the pool, and a couple of features, and they listed everything under the blue header. We reviewed that with the architect. We agreed with him that we would take everything out except the 3 red-lined items. Those we thought, price-wise and having in the pool, were worth keeping them in. That's the reason they're drawn out, because we're keeping them. The rest of the stuff we were dropping from the original bid, and we were able to save over $900,000 going that route. Now,
Keeping 6, 7, and 11.
That's right. We're going to paint. We're going to line the floor instead of paint. We're going to keep the vortex elevation structure and the piping that goes with it, which was expensive. And we are going to keep a climbing wall, which is we thought would be a really cool feature for just the $17,000. We initially thought about just putting the piping in to later put in the vortex elevation structure, but we thought it would be important to have that structure. And so we went through a lot of meetings to just kind of determine what would be taken out and what would be kept. So we're keeping the liner instead of having to repaint it every couple of years. And that was costly. But these other features, I think, will really be impressive for the community. And they weren't going to delay the opening of the pool as well. So we just needed to find money. And if you remember at the time, we were competing against but with the Animal Control Center cost. If you remember, we were talking about all that at the same time, and we just didn't think that the higher amount would come through and pass through court. So, but I'm happy with this bid, and if we want to add or expand later, we can certainly do that. But we just want to get it open and get it open with these really cool features, kind of ASAP.
And you're expecting all this work to be completed by April, is that right?
yes, not this year, but
Next year. Yeah, right. All right.
I still have another question, Judge, a little more clarity. So the 6, 7, and 11, I'll direct this to Ms. Hawkins. You're saying that you're going to keep these features, but I'm just going to use 6 as an example. Remove the vortex elevation. Okay, you were going to do that, but now you're not.
When we first were in conversation with our contractor, we said, make us the coolest pool around, and they did. And then we saw the price, and we got 2 bids on it, if I remember. And then we went back to our consultant, and we said, okay, find us some money to do all of this with. And we said, okay, they did find us some money, but in doing that, we've had to remove some of the things. But regarding 6, we thought for that price, which is $115K, that was something that we wanted to keep. So we did remove, you can see on here.
Just answer the one. Oh, you don't have a 6 now, but you want to add it.
It's already added. It's in this final price.
I mean, now is it on the site now?
It's not there now, but it will be added once we finish it. Yes. Same with the wall. Be added.
That's right. We're adding that. We do have different things in the pool now, but we're going to take out because they're dated and the mushroom doesn't work well anymore. And
then the painting versus the liner. Going to paint the pool or line it?
We went with lining it just because of the cost and the maintenance of having to paint it, and then to find somebody to paint it did they say 5 years or so? We would have to get it painted.
Every other year.
2 to 5 years. So we thought just to line it, the consultant had told us that if it was him, he would line it. We all kind of did our own research on painting versus lining. The paint can chip, creating maintenance problems. So we went with lining and decided to keep it.
$150,000 for a liner.
That's right.
Okay. What you've got said, what you're saying here, it says 11, painting floor versus liner. That would lend me to believe that you're painting the floor, not putting a liner in. That's just the opposite of what you're going to do.
You're right. Well, the red line means we are keeping the liner.
But it's not what it says there. It says painting floor versus liner.
Yep.
$50,000. That should be reversed.
And the committee looked at this. The options were to paint it or and when they value engineered it, they said, let's paint it instead of putting in a liner because painting is cheaper. What we did when we went through it line item by line item, we put that back in it. So we struck out the painting and added the liner back in that was originally in there.
I don't see how it's written is what I'm getting at.
We didn't intend to confuse you, which we apparently did, but that it does have the liner. We felt like that was absolutely worth of keeping. And the one point I do want to make right now, and we'll answer as many questions as I can or as long as you want, but the court has already voted to accept this pool at the 3663. Yeah. And I'm already adding the 60 in. So that's we've already voted on that. What we're asking today and maybe we need to vote on it, or maybe it's just informative, and I'm not sure, is that we were changing the payment schedule to meet the meeting dates of court on the Tuesdays that we meet and have them paid by that following Friday. So it'll be every time we make a payment, it will be on our docket that we'll see in court before we make that payment. And then there was one other thing, the
Completion dates.
and the substantial completion date,
Pay it anyway.
to have that right before the pool opens up.
I'm not trying to convolute the conversation today, but I'm just wanting, I mean, the way you've got, we were just talking about red lines a minute ago.
I think we've made it clear, though, that the intention is to have the liner, not do the painting.
That's not what it says there.
I did it 3 times myself, so I understand where you're coming from because I didn't want to come unprepared for that.
All right.
You saw it, but that's all I need to know.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion on the floor and a second to adjust the contract to meet the fiscal court's ability to pay every 2 weeks. Any further discussion on this?
What's the date this is supposed to be finished?
Substantial completion
First
date.
of next year.
2024. 2024. One. Others not.
Substantial completion date on March 1st.
Read that.
That's completion date.
Measured hounds, there's a
Yeah,
substantial
what
completion
what
date.
that means, Magistrate Logson, is that the thing should be done by March, but if a final inspection turns up something that is not we're not in agreement with, and we feel is outside the contract, and they agree it wasn't done correctly, they're going to have it done by the end of April. They get 30-day grace period to correct any additional need. I don't want to use the word mistakes. Let's say shortcomings, 30 days to correct them. That's really what that means.
Completion March 1st, 2024. Final completion April 1st, 2024.
All right. So we have a motion now and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8-1. Thank you. Ed Shaddai voted no. Now we're at the magistrate reimbursement resolution, I believe, here, and Magistrate Hound. You can discuss
Thank you,
that.
Judge. At the beginning of the term, there were some questions asked by the magistrates to clarify what we would be reimbursed for in expenses. Currently, there hasn't been much discussion about it. So all this document does is memorializes what we are going to ask the county to reimburse the magistrates. Basically, it's the same things that the county employees get reimbursed for, such as mileage, meals if they're outside of a conference, hotel if you're traveling on a national conference, which I think the only person that actually probably has attended a national conference in my 6 years has been Magistrate Logston, and those have been paid for through his positions with CACO and NACO, Kentucky Association of Counties and National Association of Counties. So I can read the whole resolution, but that's the Cliff Notes version or the summarization.
All right. I'm going to, you're going to make a motion. We approve this?
I'll make the motion that we approve this resolution number resolution 01030723.
All right. Is there a second here? Second, Magistrate Dye. All right, now, any discussion on this? Magistrate Jeffries.
One question on, let's see, the second page, right above number item 6, it says reimbursement will not be made for the cost of entertainment or alcoholic beverages. Exceptions to this may be approved by the judge executive. I think I would be a little more comfortable if we didn't have that language in there, to about purchasing alcoholic beverages or entertainment or whatever, at these conferences. So, if it would be in order, I would like to move to amend to strike that language of reimbursement will not be made for the cost of entertainment or alcoholic beverages. Exceptions to this may be approved by the judge executive. And I would like to move to strike that.
Second.
Kevin Woosley.
Kevin Woosley. All right, I'm going to bring up another issue as well.
One at a time, it'll make it cleaner to make. I mean, I'm willing to amend the motion if you want to take those last two lines. That reimbursement will not be made for the cost of entertainment or alcoholic beverages. Exceptions to this may be approved by the county judge. I'm okay with taking those two lines out.
Who seconded that? Magistrate Dye?
Are you okay?
Dye has to agree to the amended.
I'm saying I'll amend the motion. Magistrate Jeffries, you don't have to put that in. We can amend the motion. Magistrate Dye is in agreement with the amendment.
Magistrate Woosley also seconded my amendment, so
I don't think I think Robert's rules may be that the person who made the motion is agreeing to accept that recommendation, and the person who originally seconded was agreed to, so we don't need any additional.
And I'll agree to that, yes.
I'm going to bring up one more here that I've got the concern with, and that's item number 4. It says county shall pay a commercial coach fare for magistrate attending a conference that has been approved by the Finance Committee. I don't believe any committee has the authority to issue any payments or approvals for payments without either the approval of the entire court or without my approval as county judge. The committee acting alone doesn't have that authority. So I'd like to strike that and just say that the county shall pay for coach fare for a magistrate attending a conference that has either been approved by the fiscal court or by the county judge.
Judge, the reason that was in there was to make sure that it was a known expense and not just show up on someone's credit card or
right. I agree.
To you, we want it pre-approval. That's what we're looking for, is pre-approval. So we could take that out and say a conference has been approved by the fiscal court 30 days prior to the conference. Would that handle what you're trying to say?
Not necessarily. I just say coach fare for a magistrate attending an event. It doesn't necessarily have to. Well, a conference is kind of a word that we think of a certain type of conference, but somebody might be approved to attend a meeting on a specific subject that's not a conference. Okay. Can't think of what a good example would that be right now, but I just think that let's just say that the county shall pay for any airfare for a magistrate that is approved by the fiscal court. I just leave it generally, so we don't have to get 30 days in there, and we don't have to say what it is you're approving, what the reason is. If the reason's presented, I'd like to attend this meeting. I think it's justifiable for whatever reason, then we would vote and allow the magistrate to attend or not attend. Let's just make it as simple as we can.
I'm okay with that.
I agree with the point that we shouldn't find out after the fact that somebody has done.
Most of our bills, if you look at the payables, it's already happened. I mean, we didn't buy a police car. That's an example, not today, but usually we get the invoice at the time. But I mean, the purchasing of saw blades or oil or whatever else is on there has already happened.
Right. Right. Well, in relation to employees attending events, I'd say the majority are approved by the department head if it's an employee going somewhere, or if it's a department head, I would approve it. Okay. But
No,
magistrates are a little different class of, they're not employees, they're elected officials. So, Evan?
Well, I was just gonna say, before we vote on this, just make sure that everybody understands what we have removed and what we've left in, so that everybody's comfortable with the language.
2 changes so far.
Right. We've removed me approving people for getting entertainment and alcohol, which I might add for the public that's either here or viewing this, that in my 12 or 16 years on the fiscal court, I'm not aware of the court paying for anybody's entertainment or alcoholic beverages. It's just never happened, but it we got it in there anyway. So, okay. And as far as just the court will agree, if a magistrate would like to attend something or get educated in some way outside the area, and it's going to be an airfare involved, bring it here and let us understand what the justification is, and we can approve it or deny it.
That's what that's going to
They should die.
Microphone's off.
Since the magistrates are asking for reimbursement, it's pretty much what's already in the other employee. The employees can get in, and other elected officials. I'd also like to put a line in there that if a magistrate signs up for a class or seminar or something and doesn't attend, they need to reimburse the county for that money that's been spent, and they're not getting it. We're just throwing the money away. So if you go to KMCA and it's $275 and you don't show up, I think you need to pay the county back the $275. I mean, if I'm big enough to ask for the money for reimbursement,
I think my opinion would be that's a reasonable thought, but doesn't take into. I wouldn't want to be extremely hard and fast about it because of the fact that you could be attending something tomorrow, and you might be in an accident on the way home today. You couldn't make it, So
there'll be exceptions to that rule, but I think it ought to be put out there that
I would say that if you want to put that out there, but I'd say at least give me the authority to make an exception if one seems reasonable.
That's ever been a problem, has it? In the form to need it put in a resolution?
Magistrates not attend conferences before.
A judge,
Get billed.
just no shows.
question on the, that relates to that or whatever, in this time of COVID or whatever, if somebody comes up sick with COVID and, they're supposed to be not go around folks for 5 days or 10 days, whatever it is, and they've already paid for attending a conference, I don't think that would be really fair. But I think as long as that language would allow the county judge to make that.
Good with that. I'm not trying to beat anybody up.
Right. Because, there could be exceptions that would be, valid reason that somebody couldn't attend or, whatever.
Right. We need. I think it's a good thought as far as being respectful and responsible for the county assets, but that we do need a little bit of flexibility because circumstances do come up, and they can't always control them. Magistrate Woosley.
For 16 years, have we ever had a resolution like this or a need for one? I don't understand why we're pushing for it, because there's
Probably just because of this general subject matter that's in here. I don't know. You have to ask Magistrate Dye.
Measure Hounds, is there a reason that this is coming up?
Because it's not clearly defined in any other documentation in the county, because we don't fall under some of the other restrictions of the county. And this, it makes everything clean and gives everybody a set of rules to play by.
All of us are getting measured by the same rule.
Have a 100-mile radius in here for reimbursement for lodging. Most of the events are either in Lexington or Louisville. Neither fall within that 100 miles. My concern is I've had to stay in Lexington once because I had a late event in the evening and an early event in the next morning, and they were calling for snow, but that still wouldn't fall in with this 100 miles. So if most of our events are going to be held in Louisville or Lexington, wouldn't we scale that back to at least 50 miles so Lexington is included if we had to stay if we were there?
I don't have a problem with that.
To make it needs to be on. I mean, I think what the goal is that we are supposed to be watching the county's dollars and cents and to make sure that we are being prudent in the expenses. By paying for the mileage, we're reimbursing you for your expense. I know that when I was in corporate America, we had a 100-mile rule. And if it was 100 miles away from your home, then you could ask for lodging and they would pay for it. If it was less than 100 miles, then you were asked to drive. Because the cost of the at the time, if you go into a conference hotel, you were going to pay considerably more than what the cost of the mileage would be. That was just the original theory. I'm just trying to be good stewards of the county's money, and
To be good stewards of the county money, we'd all just take online courses and won't have any travel.
more expensive, Magistrate Woosley. And you don't get the personal benefit of attending the conferences and building the relationships.
I might agree with Magistrate Woosley in that particular. I didn't read this to be something that we would normally attend as a conference in the Louisville or Lexington. I read this more that you left the region and were gone to St. Louis or something. I guess you could read it here, but I agree. We have the magistrate. One of the conferences we attend every year in Lexington comes up in February, and you can easily. I have stayed there on nights when we go over there on a Wednesday, and they're predicting a snowstorm for Wednesday night, and you think, well, I really don't want to risk coming back to LaGrange, in the middle of an ice storm or something like that. So, I made a reservation to stay the night. So I can see where you need a little flexibility in that. The 100 miles is not easily traversed in inclement weather. And sometimes too, I get stuck every year. The county judges will have a meeting. They want to have a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock meeting, or a meeting the night before the conference starts. Well, honestly, I don't want to drive to Lexington, drive back home, and then drive back to Lexington in 12 hours. So I don't go to the night. I skip that county judge meeting. I don't go on Wednesday night. So, because I don't want to make 2 trips in that short a time. So, again, this might be something that needs a little flexibility in it versus, strict interpretation.
Maybe down to 30.
Pardon?
We can change the word shall. We can fix this very easily. The county may pay for lodging for any conference encumbered above that is held more than 100 miles. It doesn't say it shall. We can say may. That's going to allow for interpretation. The word shall is definite. The word may gives you the option.
Well, how about if you drop the miles to Andrew Woosley's point here about a lesser number, say 50?
Like the record to reflect that the
Covers
judge
you for Lexington, but sends you home from Louisville.
Magistrate here is 70 plus miles from any Lexington conference that we've attended in the last 3 years.
Oh, but your line says held more than 100 miles.
I put the 100 in there just as a better round number than 70. I thought it was.
Get down to 50. Is that what you're proposing?
Judge?
I think our point is we don't want to make sure that everybody's using the county funds appropriately that they commit to. Would you say agree to that?
That is yes.
Ed should die.
2 comments on this. I don't have a problem with the 50 miles. you just brought up a point where you don't want to drive home and drive back 12 hours. And there may be something that you really probably would like to see, go to, and listen to, but you can't for whatever reason. So you don't go back. Well, you lost part of your registration and you lost part of the education. Number one. Number two is we've got other magistrates, commissioners, and judges all across the state that drive all the way from Paducah and all the way from Pikeville to come to Lexington. Now, I know a lot of them stay overnight. Well,
All of them do.
yeah. But I mean, just
Be
because
honest about it, it's a half a vacation for people from Paducah to go to Lexington. They they think it's a trip.
I think what we're trying to do here is make it to where if we're going to be questioned about something, I'd rather have a set of rules that applies to everyone than different people do different things. That's the whole point of this. It's not any penalize anybody or enrich anybody. You're sure not going to get rich on it. So,
Magistrate Dye, if you'll agree, I will agree to change it to 50 miles on number.
I'm good with that.
It's number 3. Are you going to change shall to may as well?
Change it from shall to may, and change it from 100 miles to 50 miles.
Actually, Likens wanted to get into this discussion.
I just wanted to tell the general public and maybe the newspaper that most of us up here can charge mileage, but I never turn it in. It's just I consider that kind of nickel diming the county for a little bit, and most of us drive our own vehicles to these things and never turn anything in for parking or mileage. But I can't speak for everyone here. That's just kind of a general rule of thumb that we do. We don't charge.
If I can add the language to number 7 that Magistrate Dye was talking about, if a magistrate signs up for a conference and does not attend, they shall reimburse the county. The county judge will handle all exceptions to this.
Would you say that again, Chris?
Magistrate signs up for a conference and does not attend, they shall reimburse the county. The county judge will handle all exceptions to this. Magistrate Dye, are you okay with that for number 7? My chicken scratch, if that'll make it easier.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Concern with that last one, Magistrate Hounds, is in the future when if there were to be a judge executive that has a problem with a magistrate, like Magistrate Dye just said, we're all being measured by the same ruler. But in the future, if there should be a conflict, I don't know if we would be measured by the same ruler if the ruler is the judge executive. So I don't care for that number 7 addition.
You can vote against the resolution, but understand this is a resolution for this term. In the next 4 years, whoever's sitting up here can make a similar resolution for the next 4 years. It's not set in stone.
It doesn't say it expires.
It expires.
Anything can be changed anytime.
Change at any time. All you got to have is 5 votes.
About
I appreciate what you're all doing here, but I'm not going to be for
I
this.
hear you.
Hate you going to trouble of doing this resolution, but I'm not going to be for this. We've been doing this for 14 years, going back and forth to Louisville, Lexington. You can get your parking validated up front most of the time with CAECO or the Magistrate Association. Usually we have our meals at the restaurant or they're furnished. Part of our fees that we pay to go to the meetings. As far as driving back and forth, we're all business people up here. There's expenses to everything we do. We do get comp for going to educational classes already. So, I'm not going to be for it. So I'm just one vote.
That you talked about is already taken care of. We're not changing any of that. We're not changing any of the fact that if you attend a CAECO conference, you get the meals at CAECO. If you decide to go to lunch across the street from Rep Arena, that's on Michael. We're not paying for that.
In 14 years, who's ever used us?
Been discussion, and there have been expenses turned in, and there was ambiguity if the expenses should be paid. All we are trying to do is to memorialize this so everybody knows what the rules are, what the rules of engagement are.
What happens if you sign up for Lexington and you get up the next morning and something happens where you can't go to that last day, and it's in Lexington, so you got to miss 2 hours, and you got to decide, am I going to drive all the way to Lexington in order to meet the regulations that we're going to set forth here, and then drive back an hour later, or just so that I don't get in trouble for not going to something? I mean, when you put that in there, it's really limiting you what you can do and what you can't do. There's always things that come up. I don't think there's very many people that are sitting on this court that abuse the going to the meeting and say, well, heck with it, I'm not going now. There's just stuff that comes up all the time you can't help. And when it's in Lexington, when it's in Louisville, it's easy to do. You might miss an hour here or there. But when it's in Lexington and you got to drive an hour up there, and most of the time on the last day, you're out at noon anyway. So are you going to get penalized for, are you going to prorate to the last day that you don't go up there? Because you got to drive an hour back, and you're only up there for 2 hours to begin with?
Up to attend the conference, and you knew what the agenda was at the conference when you signed up.
Get that. I can bite you.
Magistrate.
Since there's a lot of discussion about this, can we just table this or whatever and give you Judge and Chris or the committee an opportunity to talk and bring it back or take it back up at the next court?
We made the changes that we're going to make. I mean, what changes, what else do you want to see done to the resolution?
No, I'd like to have a vote. But I thought maybe you all would want to talk about it before we vote.
I'd second that, tabling it.
All right, we've had a motion second to table it. At this point, I'm going to ask Tara to call the roll.
Magistrate Helm. Magistrate Likens. Magistrate Dye. Magistrate Woosley. Magistrate Hawkins.
Yes.
Magistrate Tice. Magistrate Jeffries. Magistrate Logston. Judge.
What's that?
Hurry up and count, Judge.
All right, I vote to table. I think there's too many rough edges on this for everybody sitting here, and we've talked about it. We can bring it up again, see if you want to do it next. Don't have to decide it today. All right.
Count.
5-4.
To vote or to table?
For now.
4 to table.
What's the other way?
Folks that asked for it to be tabled, I would encourage you to give me your recommendations. Folks,
I'll give you mine. Okay.
you already gave me yours.
Well, okay. Let's go on here now to the next item, and that has to do with see if you're doing better on this one. Dispatch salary schedule. Magistrate Hounds.
So, Judge, and I'll ask.
Judge, could I ask for a recount on that vote? Because I thought it was 5-3 before you vote.
4 to table it. It was 5-4 to table it.
Voted no. You voted no.
We'll repeat the no votes here.
And
Tell you, Magistrate Likens voted to not table it.
that's right.
Tice voted to table it. Magistrate Woosley voted to table it. I am so sorry.
All right.
I'm just jumping
All
right
right.
here.
I know. You. you're trying to help me out here. I understand. There's no problem. All right, here's our yes votes to table. And that carried the day that the yes votes are Tice, Woosley, Hawkins, Logston, and Vogel. That's fine.
Logston vote to table it or not to table it? He said no.
Table. He said table. Did you say table?
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Judge, I apologize.
No problem. No problem. I know you want to be helpful. That's right. But I had the official record there, So. All right. We'll go on now to salary schedule for the dispatch.
As we did with the county police, we are going to ask the court to make a salary adjustment to Oldham County Central Dispatch. To the dispatchers, we are going to use as our example the Metro Safe Pay Scale. Our dispatchers do everything. They take the 911 calls, they dispatch the 911 calls, they answer the radio, they call LG&E, and so on and so forth. So we are using the Telecommunicator 2 schedule. What the court has before them is taking the salary schedule from 1 to 30 years. Those are the current hourly rates. We are asking for these hourly rates to become effective on March the 26th, 2023. The total wages is $156,427 and a penny for the year.
Second.
All right, motion made to increase the salary schedule for dispatch. We had Magistrate Helms made that motion, and who seconded? You should die. Correct?
Woosley seconded.
As you Woosley seconded? All right, sorry. Let's see, discussion on this? As you Woosley?
Anybody doesn't think they're worth it, I would invite them to be down there last Friday when they handled hundreds of calls. So they are very much worth this.
All right. And anyone else? Magistrate Hounds?
Judge, also too, I mean, the purpose is to get this fully staffed, and when we are fully staffed, we'll have 3 dispatchers around the clock, and we are currently 5 positions short, 5 full-time positions short. We are filling the holes currently with part-time folks.
All right. Our dispatch director is here. Would you like to say anything about this? Give you a chance here. Right.
Greatly appreciate your consideration in this. As stated, we are 5 full-time dispatchers short. To Magistrate Woodley's point, Friday was an absolute perfect example of when we could have used that staff. I've been here the last couple meetings and heard several people come up and show support for the police. I know there's lots of behind-the-scenes support for dispatchers, but the community seems to forget that, or people didn't show up, that we all pick up that magic little box when a situation happens and hit 3 numbers. There's a point between the police, fire, and EMS showing up to help you and you calling 911, and those people in between that need your support now to get some backup and some help. And so I greatly appreciate consideration. Is there any questions I can answer?
No, I think we've got the point. The difference between police and dispatch are quite a few, but maybe the one you referred to there is police are seen, dispatch are heard.
Correct.
And they're out of sight, but not out of mind for our community and for us. And we're very happy to try to increase their compensation and help attract good people. We have good people now, good dedicated people, and we're looking for others to join them. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Yes, I just like to say and concur with Bo's assessment or whatever. I think the dispatchers, are kind of the unsung heroes or whatever. I mean, those are the first contacts that somebody is having an issue or in distress or had a wreck or whatever, and those folks are very competent, and I think that we just need to do what we can to support them and make sure that they have the they have the folks there that can do these jobs, and I think we've got a real good group of folks now. So I definitely support this resolution for this pay adjustment.
Manager Likens.
Yes, has this been approved by the Finance Committee? Where's the money coming from?
Right. We've been through this with finance and our finance department, committee and department, and we're confident that this will improve the situation for our dispatchers and will help attract high-quality new people. All right, seeing no further comments, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item here has to do with some personnel matters. Ms. Schaaf, you want to bring up these personnel matters? Well, you're sitting in the last chair of the last row, but I won't say you need the exercise, but come on up. Okay.
Oh, you meant I don't need the exercise.
I know that you have you always use more.
A lawsuit. All right. This afternoon we have 2 rehires for seasonal staff at Parks Maintenance Department. We have Kevin Reina Padilla and Cecil Slayton at $15 an hour, and we'd like them to start on the 11th.
All right. Is there a motion that we rehire Kevin Padilla and Cecil Slayton?
Second.
Seasonal laborers. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
There are a couple of resignations. We have a resignation from dispatch, Lacey Reber, effective February 22nd, and Jerry Nart, effective February 28th.
And no action needed on those, but we certainly, I want to recognize Mr. Nart. Jerry Nart has been our dispatch director and emergency management director for some time here, the last several years. Did a very nice job. We're going to miss Jerry. He's wish him the best in his retirement, and he's already retired from one job. This is retirement from another. So we wish him very, very good health in the future, and thank him for all the service he has provided for Oldham County Fiscal Court and the residents of our community. And, all right. I guess we'll end up the meeting here. Is there any here for public comment here? Okay. All right, great. Sheriff Tim Wakefield, welcome.
Sheriff Tim Wakefield, I guess 100 West Jefferson Street, Suite 2, LaGrange, Kentucky. Just wanted to go over if you had any questions about the activity for February. That's all. That was put in your packet, and I didn't put it on the agenda. And if anyone has any questions,
right.
If you think of any now, feel free to call me later. So,
thank you. The sheriff provided an activity report for February for everyone, and we appreciate that.
Just one thing, just like to say, I've been seeing quite a few sheriff's vehicles out in the county, and where they're doing, patrols or doing, speed checks or whatever. And I think that's very important. I've started noticing more activity out across the county, so I think that's good.
Great, thanks.
Measure Woosley.
It's pretty impressive numbers. You have 343 vehicle inspections on here. I'm just wondering, does that include the golf carts, or do you know what the number of golf cart inspections are?
I don't think we've done any recently. That doesn't mean we won't. And as the weather warms up, I'm sure it'll pick up. But no, I believe those are all just vehicles. That's about standard. We do between 300 and 400, depending on how things go, which is a lot, I think. So. Yes, sir.
The farm Glen Oaks, you'll get rider's cramp on those golf carts.
Now he's talking about inspections. So, okay.
Did he say? Could you repeat that?
get riders cramp. But
What was your point?
golf carts, nobody's got them inspected. I mean, there's
No,
a
no.
few.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment here? All right, we'll see if any magistrates have any final thoughts. Magistrate Likens,
Good day, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Tice,
Thank you, though.
Woosley.
If you want to recognize on April 9th through the 15th, which is a month from now, it's National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. That week, we recognize all of the public safety dispatchers across the county. I'll put this on the magistrate's notice in case they wanted to provide dinner for our magistrates through the week or lunch for them. You mentioned Jerry Nart. I also want to thank him for his service. You mentioned he retired once, but he's actually retired now 3 times. He's retired from a 25-year career with the state police. The last one, I was a commander of the Henderson Post. He had about 40 years with the U.S. Coast Guard, and then now the service with us. He is going to stay active in the Pee Wee Valley Fire Department, so he's still going to be active for the county. But again, I want to also thank him for his service to the state and the county. And finally, I want to just special thanks to our road departments and the linemen over this weekend. They've been out nonstop clearing roads and getting everybody's power restored. So I want to just thank them, acknowledge them.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Just a couple things. Just like to announce that the Farm Service Administration FSA office has some assistance that would be available for farmers in Oldham County here. And so if you need some additional information about that and what's covered, whether it be fences that are down or, livestock that got killed during that storm back last Friday, contact either Tracy Johnson with the Oldham County Extension Office or the FSA office is the office that services us in Newcastle in Oldham County. So I'd recommend that you folks get a hold of them and see what kind of resources are available for that. I'd like to thank Jeff Tyndall. He set us up yesterday down at the detention center for some of the magistrates and the county judge that attended and took us on a tour of the detention center. And I thought that was, a very eye-opening experience. And if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, magistrates, I would suggest you do that just to, kind of see what's involved with that whole process. And Judge, I didn't know whether we were going to have any discussion about the debris pickup and what we were going to do, on that or whatever yet, or today. Okay, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Magistrate Helms.
Thank you, Judge. I too would like to congratulate Jerry Nart on his retirement. Jerry's been a friend of mine for a number of years, and I think he's done a pretty good job with the EMA position. And the next person's got some big shoes to fill. Jerry left, and within 48 hours, we had the 3rd biggest wind event in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I don't know if that was timing or what on Jerry's part. I have received several phone calls about the incident that happened on Friday, and one of them was, well, don't you have a special number to call LG&E? I don't know if the rest of the magistrates do, but if you do, I'd like that number because I don't have it. I don't know about that number. I was without power for a period of time and had water in my basement, which I'll be talking to Jim Silman about that later. But anyway, I will say that the County Emergency Services on Friday and Saturday did an exceptional job. If you had the ability or you were so inclined to listen to the radio, it was nonstop traffic for about 2 hours and some change. And I give kudos to the folks that were working the streets on Friday because a lot of times we were running in different directions and passing each other on the road, and it was controlled chaos. But everything got taken care of. Thank goodness there was no loss of life. And last I heard, LG&E is still going with their 11 p.m. tomorrow night to have majority of the service restored. There's a last count by LG&E's numbers. There's 1,500 trucks and contractors in our service area taking care of down power lines and problems. So please be patient. If you see those folks, thank them. The crew that I was talking to on Saturday, they were committed to working 14 hours a day to get things fixed. They're basically finding a restaurant that would give them a carryout, pay for, and go back to the hotel, crash, and do it all again the next day. So thank you to the LG&E and their affiliates for coming out and helping.
Agent Hawkins.
Wanted to also thank Ben and the road department and also the emergency services for all of their effort since Friday. And that was all I had today, Judge. Thank you.
Die.
I'd like to thank the jailer for having us down yesterday to do a tour of the jail. I was on the committee that actually started and built the jail. It looks really nice for being 5 years old, and I think that it was a wise investment at the time. And speaking of wise investments, I think that the storm we had just recently and the one we had here just a few weeks before that just bears out the case of why we've been making a great attempt, the magistrates, the court, the judge, his people, to get these salaries up for these public safety people so we can be competitive in the marketplace and have, if we've got, just an example, if we've got 10 chairs down there at dispatch, it should have bodies in it. I want 10 chairs. I want 10 bodies. If the police department's got 10 cars, and they shouldn't be sitting in the parking lot. They should have policewomen, both in it. Same thing for the EMS and the sheriffs. I can't say enough on this. We've got to be competitive. If you want the kind of service that you expect when you pick up, what you sell at the Magic Box, when you pick up and you get 911, it's not like Louisville, where you'll get someone or maybe a recording say your call will be answered in the order it was received. You get a real live human that's been trained, that knows their job, and gets the people to you as quickly as possible. So it all pays off. These are the times it really shows. So anyway, we've got more departments to look at, and it's going to be a long process, but we'll get there. We'll push the boat in the same direction. Thank you.
Magistrate Logston.
Yes, Judge. I want to thank the road department and District 5 and our own county road department. They really stepped up to the plate. Every time I called them, they were thankful for the things we needed them to do. I want to thank LG&E for being out there, but just in my district, I really want to thank the people that came up from Pike County, Pikeville area, Floyd County. They came up there. They came in on Saturday. I'm with Chris. I would love to know the LG&E number that I can call to magically have stuff happen, because I don't know where it is. But we were getting a lot of pushback from a lot of people in Pee Wee and Crestwood why they were doing what they were doing. The people from Pike County who were there before anybody else were there, they were staying at the Drury Inn down there close to the Summit. And he said they just came up Westport Road, turned on 146. They had an iPad that showed all the lights out. They started at where the very first street they came to and was working their way up. Yes, it is. So,
that's what really happened.
You know what, Bob? That's what starts all the stuff out there. I know you're joking around, but that is what starts it all. So I'm telling you what happened. They started at Dogwood, worked their way to, it took them 2 days to get through Tulip Avenue. It was such a mess down there. Then they went to Maple. Now they're at Beachdale Road. I'm hoping Beachdale Road is finished. I know that Park Lake, they were up there working on that, which apparently feeds the backside of Magnolia Place and the Madison Park area. Walmart was out. So I just had some people text me and say that Park Lake's back on and that the Madison Park's on. So I'm hoping that Red Light's back on there, and hopefully Walmart's back on. I don't know. They were using a generator for weeks or for days. So, there was a lot of problems in Crest. It seems like Crestwood and Pee Wee got hit the hardest out of the county. I don't know. I haven't heard a whole lot about LaGrange, and I know Westport had some outages, but it just seems like we were hit the hardest there. But hopefully everything's going to be back in shape in the next day or so. But please be patient. The LG&E crews, the guy told me they had to work 16 hours and mandatory. They had to go back to their hotel and stay for 8 hours. As some kind of state statute. They couldn't just keep working all the time. So, everybody's trying to do what they can. So please be patient, and thank you for all the crews out there working.
All right, thank you. And I join everybody else in thanking everybody who's trying to solve the problems and protect the community. I do want to mention a couple of things here. One that the swimming pool came up here today. I would say from my perspective, and be very likely we'll continue our summer program with the YMCA this year. Our pool won't be open for another 14 months or 12, something like that, or until May of next year, really. So we'll probably do another deal with the YMCA to let people from the county swim in those facilities. The magistrates, please come to my office after the meeting. We have legislative blue books in for you. Those are books that list every legislative committee and every one of the state legislators, contact numbers for all of them. We buy these each year to help you be in contact with our legislative members, and they're really good. I don't want to belabor the point about when our meetings are. I wish that Mr. Kaiser could have stayed, but he's gone. Maybe he'll watch this on television later, but I stopped and thought about, as I mentioned, we've had some night meetings over the years. I remember one when we voted to stop or disallow smoking in public buildings and commercial buildings. This room was packed with people who had an opinion about that. But there haven't been, that was way back about 2007. We've had a few other things happen, maybe a zoning change or something, but very few items rise to the level of public controversy here in the way they might at the school board, for example, dealing with children, or I'll say the planning commission. I stopped and thought about other groups that we have in our community that meet, that interact with people during the daytime. The planning commission is one that 10 or 15 times more people show up at the planning commission than ever show up in a fiscal court meeting. The planning commission subboards, the board of adjustments, the code enforcement board, all have, sometimes people show up there. They meet during the day. Police merit board, extension board, health department, assessment and appeals, Kentuckiana Regional Planning Commission, Tri-County Community Action Agency, CAECO, our Oldham County committees of the fiscal court. We all meet during the day. And so if something were to come up that would be judged to be a high interest item in the community, we'll have an evening meeting. Certainly not afraid or unhappy to have one, but we really, it's 4 o'clock now. Our people leave normally at 4:30. Past that point, we give them a compensatory time. So if we start off at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's just going to create a problem in subsequent days in our workflow. So I understand this point of view, but we have very few people contact us that are very adamant about having evening meetings, and so that's one reason that we meet during the day. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody here and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor, please say aye.